parallel and perpendicular lines. In other words, non-vertical lines. For parallel lines, m1 equals m2. In other words, same slopes. For perpendicular lines, two criteria must be met. First criteria, m1 equals 1 over m2 or reciprocal slopes. In criteria number 2, opposite in sign. So once again, first equation when looking at your equations versus second equation. If you're looking for parallel lines, slope equals 3 halves. Second equation, slope must also be 3 halves for them to be parallel lines. In other words, same slopes would give us the parallel line definition. Okay, going for the next one. First equation and second equation, in order for them to be perpendicular, if for instance the slope of the first equation is 4/5, the slope of the second equation must be opposite in sign, so it must have a negative sign. Since the first one is positive, the second one has to be negative. If the first one is negative, then the second one must be positive. In this case, it's positive, so this one is negative. And reciprocal slopes. So reciprocal, in other words, instead of 4 over 5, we have a 5 over 4. The slopes are flipped. Do notice that. 5 over 4 instead. So opposite sign and reciprocal slopes therefore mean that it's a perpendicular line. Okay, let's try examples then. Some examples to take a look. Our first set of examples, y equals 3x minus 5 and y equals 3x plus 2. If we notice, the slopes are both the same. So our m value in both cases, 3 for both, right? So therefore, same slopes. These are both parallel lines. It has nothing to do with the y value. The -5 and the 2 has nothing to do with them being parallel or not. Something to keep in mind, okay? So once again, parallel lines. Let's try the next set. Next set of expressions or equations, y equals x minus 5 versus, y equals 8/5 x minus 5 versus y equals -5/8 x plus 2. Hey, notice the fractions. What do you notice about the slopes being fractions? So in this case, they're opposite in sign and reciprocal slopes, meaning the signs are opposite, one's positive, one's negative, and the slopes are flipped. Instead of 8 over 5, the other one's 5 over 8. So they meet the criteria for perpendicular lines. They're both perpendicular lines then. And the last set of equations, y equals 2x plus 3 and y equals 3x plus 2. Once again, it has nothing to do with the v value. It has everything to do with the slope. Our slope, 2 and 3, the values next to the x, right? Not the ones by themselves, are different. So they're not opposite, no opposite sign in other words, or reciprocal. So they're not the same, they're not parallel, they don't have opposite signs, so they're not perpendicular, and definitely not reciprocals. So for sure, they are neither parallel nor perpendicular. Agreed?